Cuphead's difficulty is a frustration cocktail, and it leaves you with a bad hangover. Let me explain. 2017's indie smash hit Cuphead presents itself in a gorgeous 1930s aesthetic you just can't get enough of. Its world is brought to life by a creative force that's rarely seen in games. You never get tired of all the hand-painted characters oozing with charm. The gameplay is intoxicating, marrying Mega Man-style platforming and boss fights with aspects of bullet hell shooters. The game never stops throwing engaging new gameplay patterns at you. Every step on your way to defeating the devil is a fresh take on challenging platforming levels. But somewhere along the way, this mixture turns bitter for me. There are a few factors that contribute to Cuphead's punishing difficulty. The game demands near perfection. Depending on your loadout, you can only be hit 2 or 3 times throughout the entire level, and there's no way of regaining health. Get hit unexpectedly during an early boss phase? You might as well restart because you're probably going to need full health by the final phase. Next up, the hitboxes don't always align perfectly with the representations on screen. This is problematic specifically when trying to land on a platform while also trying to dodge projectiles. Depending on where you stand and which direction you're facing, certain projectiles will track you accordingly. But if you had to correct your trajectory onto a platform during a jump, this can have fatal consequences. Even if you end up dodging the attack, there's often a couple other attacks just waiting to catch you right afterwards. The other thing are the hurt boxes of the bosses. Usually touching an enemy will hurt you in Cuphead. Yet, mostly during animations, bosses will lash out with parts of their body, but sometimes you'll be able to just phase through them unharmed. There's even sections during which bosses can be touched safely with no indication of when those sections begin and end. Then there's the weapons. You can switch between 2 weapons on the fly, and certain weapons will make certain bosses easier. You cannot try out those weapons though without buying them, and you can't unlock more weapon options unless you want to buy earlier ones. However, no weapon is a straight upgrade to another weapon as far as I know. They all have their own strengths and weaknesses, so I don't really see the need for unlocks. Most likely though, at some point you'll be in a boss fight and a weapon you haven't seen yet or can't afford right now would help you out. So you have no choice but to back out of the fight and go grinding for coins in the run and gun levels. But by far, the most egregious factor in Cuphead's difficulty is the lack of feedback for the player. There are no health bars for the bosses and no damage numbers for your weapons. Boss phases therefore have no sense of progression to them until you've defeated them. In the end, the boss always looks the same, always goes through its attack patterns the exact same way. So if you're struggling and trying out new weapons with different EX moves and new supers, you can't say for certain how much better or worse you're doing. As an indicator of you actually hurting the boss, all you get is a subtle white flashing. So subtle, in fact, that if you were busy dodging and you could only look at the boss with your peripheral vision, you might not even realize you're missing your shot. As for level progress, all you get is a symbolic racetrack with a finish line at the end. You only get to know how far you've come, though, after you've died. Still, this could have been helpful if it were more descriptive. The line is very vaguely defined. You see the notches for the different phases of the fight, but it always looks the same for every level in the game. You also don't know if the line represents the boss's health or the time it would take you to reach the next phase. Because there are bosses with phases you only have to survive, so they are partly time trials. Yet their progress bars will look no different from any other levels. Now, I have to mention there is a so-called simple mode to all the levels, but it's kind of a misnomer. Beating a stage on simple just removes the last phase of each fight, so you don't even get to practice that, and unlocks further levels. But if you want to proceed from one area to the next, you still have to have all levels completed on regular eventually. Now, all the things I've mentioned so far could be fine on their own, but combined they result in a game that I don't feel accomplished in. I feel relief and defeat when finishing a stage. And I feel powerlessness, anger, and frustration when failing. Of course, not every game has to appeal to everybody. Cuphead might hit the sweet spot for you, and if it does, great. However, I get the impression that the art design might have been at odds with the gameplay here. Yes, we could have had a boss bar and more obvious damage indicators, but that would have hurt the game's old-timey cartoon aesthetic. And if you were to introduce, say, a move that reclaims your health, it might be way too overpowered and make every fight into a joke, and you don't want that either. So I can certainly see how balancing all that could have been a nightmare as well. What do you think? And please don't tell me how I'm playing the game wrong. I know I suck. Tell me how the game could be improved to make it less frustrating while keeping the same general feel. Maybe an actual easy mode with a bad ending, so you're encouraged to replay it on harder difficulties. How about that? In any case, thanks for watching. I think this is a topic worth discussing, and please do so respectfully. Please also check out my channel. I don't usually do these kind of critical commentary videos, but I can be persuaded to do more in the future. And also follow me on Twitter to interact with me more directly, @FarMunction. Thanks again for watching, and see you around.